I want to start today with a single line from the Weather Prediction Center's latest public discussion, issued this morning at 5:47 a.m. Eastern. It is one of those rare sentences that forecasters only write when they genuinely mean it. A major multi-phase storm system will impact virtually every region of the contiguous United States over the next 7 days, with significant hazards expected from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic seaboard. Every region. Not most regions, not large portions of the country. Every region. That is not dramatic language from a cable news chyron. That is the Weather Prediction Center, the same office that coordinates national forecast guidance for all 122 NWS field offices, telling you in plain operational language that no one is sitting this one out. The Pacific Northwest gets it first, the Rockies get it second, the Plains get it third, the Midwest gets it fourth, the South gets it fifth, and the Northeast gets it last, but it gets it. If you live in the continental United States, this storm system has your name on it somewhere in the 7-day outlook. Today is the day to pay attention, not tomorrow when the first watches are posted, not the day the warnings go up. Today. Let me tell you exactly what is coming and exactly why it is going to be as significant as the models are suggesting. It starts offshore. It always starts offshore. A deep upper-level trough has been digging southward off the Pacific coast for the last 36 hours, pulling cold air from the Gulf of Alaska southward into a region that has been running warmer than normal at the surface for most of the past month. When you stack cold air aloft on top of warm, moisture-laden surface air, you build instability. And when that instability is focused by a tightening pressure gradient along a well-defined frontal boundary, you do not get scattered showers. You get an organized, coherent storm system with enough energy to survive a coast-to-coast transit of the United States without falling apart. That is what the models are showing, and they have been showing it consistently for 4 days now. When GFS, the European and the Canadian, all agree on the same general solution for 4 days running, forecasters take that seriously. This is not a case of one rogue model run suggesting something dramatic. This is a case of every major modeling system telling the same story from 4 days out, which is about as much confidence as operational forecasting ever gets. Here is how it unfolds, region by region, because the hazards are different depending on where you are, and I want to be precise about what each area should actually prepare for. The Pacific Northwest takes the first hit beginning tonight and into tomorrow. The leading edge of the system will push onshore across northern California, Oregon, and Washington as a cold front with a surge of subtropical moisture feeding into it from the southwest. This is an atmospheric river signature on the water vapor imagery, not a classical Pacific frontal system. Atmospheric rivers carry somewhere between 7 and 15 times the average flow of water at the mouth of the Mississippi River. They are not subtle weather events. When one of these moisture plumes aims at a coastline, you measure the results in inches per hour, not tenths of an inch per day. Rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour are possible along the Oregon Coast Range and the Cascades tomorrow morning. Total rainfall accumulations of 4 to 8 inches over 36 hours are expected in the terrain-enhanced zones, with localized totals near 10 inches possible where the flow is most directly perpendicular to the mountain ranges. The rivers in this region, particularly the Willamette, the Chehalis, and the Snoqualmie, are already running above seasonal normal from recent rainfall. Additional 4 to 8 inch totals on top of saturated soils mean rapid river rises. If you are in a flood-prone area of western Oregon or western Washington, do not wait for a watch to be issued. Do your flood preparedness tonight, because watches will become warnings faster than people expect when soils are already wet. Behind the Pacific front, the atmosphere does not relax. The upper-level trough deepens as it moves inland, and what was a rain-dominant event on the coast transitions into a snow event for the interior mountains. The Cascades, the Northern Rockies, and eventually the Colorado Rockies are all in the snow corridor as this system pushes east. Snow levels will drop to 3,000 feet in the Northern Rockies by Wednesday and to 4,000 feet in Colorado by Thursday. Passes including Snoqualmie, Stevens, and Marias in the northern tier, and Vail Pass, Eisenhower Tunnel, and Wolf Creek in Colorado will see significant accumulation. If you are planning mountain travel anywhere in the western interior this week, check road conditions the morning you travel, not the night before. These situations evolve faster than a 12-hour-old forecast can capture. Now, the part that makes this storm system different from a typical Pacific intrusion is what happens when it exits the Rockies and encounters the plains. Most Pacific systems weaken as they cross the mountains. They leave their moisture on the western slopes, drop their energy budget through orographic processes, and arrive on the high plains as a much diminished system. Not this one. The upper-level energy feeding this trough is deep enough and cold enough that a secondary surface low is expected to develop on the lee side of the Rockies, most likely in the Colorado-Kansas border region, by late Wednesday into Thursday. Lee cyclogenesis. The process where a dying Pacific system essentially gives birth to a new plains storm in the exact corridor that has generated some of the most violent weather in American history. The question the models are debating right now is how quickly that secondary low deepens. And that question matters enormously, because the difference between a low that deepens slowly and a low that deepens explosively is the difference between a significant storm and a generational one. The European model has been consistently deeper and faster with the secondary development than the American GFS. When the European model has been right in these situations historically, the results have involved words like historic and record-breaking. We are not there yet in terms of forecast confidence, but the possibility is on the table, and it deserves to be named plainly. For the Central Plains, specifically Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Missouri, Thursday through Friday represents the peak threat window. Ahead of the deepening surface low, a warm sector will establish itself with surface temperatures in the 70s and dew points in the upper 50s to lower 60s. Behind the low, temperatures will be 30 degrees colder. That temperature contrast along a tightening frontal boundary, combined with strong wind shear from a 100-knot jet streak at 300 millibars overhead, is a severe weather setup, not a marginal setup. Not a borderline setup, a textbook, well-forced, large-scale severe weather setup with multiple tornado, large hail, and damaging wind hazards possible. The Storm Prediction Center has not yet issued outlooks beyond day 3, but I can tell you that the ingredients being discussed in the extended range guidance are the same ingredients that produce significant severe weather outbreaks. Be watching SPC's day 4 and 5 outlooks as they are issued Wednesday morning. If you live anywhere from central Kansas through central Missouri into western Tennessee, this is the week to make sure your warning receipt method is reliable and your shelter plan is current, not after the watch is posted. Now, behind the severe weather threat on the warm side of the system, the cold side tells a completely different story for the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. As the plains low deepens, it will pull cold air southward from Canada through the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The precipitation type question in this zone, the zone roughly from Sioux Falls to Minneapolis to Green Bay, is one of the more consequential forecast questions of the week. If the low tracks slightly south of current guidance, the cold air arrives faster and the precipitation falls as snow, potentially significant snow, across the Twin Cities and into northern Wisconsin. If the low tracks slightly north, the precipitation falls as ice and rain before transitioning to snow. Ice is the scenario that historically causes the most widespread damage, the most power outages, and the most disruption to transportation networks. This is the scenario meteorologists are watching most carefully in the day 4 to 5 window. Either way, by Saturday morning, temperatures across the northern plains and upper Midwest will be running 15 to 25 degrees below where they were this time last week. Freeze watches are already a near certainty for the Ohio Valley and interior Northeast for next weekend. If you have anything in the ground, any tender plants responding to the recent warm spell, the window to protect them is before Thursday, not the morning of the frost. The Southeast and Gulf Coast get their piece of this system last, but they are not minor characters in this story. As the plains low lifts northeast toward the Great Lakes, its trailing cold front will sweep through the Tennessee Valley, the Deep South, and into Florida by Friday night into Saturday. Ahead of that front, a warm and unstable air mass will be in place across Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. The severe weather threat in this corridor on Friday is real, and it is the zone where overnight tornado warnings are most possible, which is historically the most dangerous threat profile in American meteorology. People are asleep, the storm is not. And behind everything, behind the full continental passage of this system, behind the flooding in the Northwest, the snow in the Rockies, the tornadoes in the plains, the ice in the upper Midwest, and the overnight storms in the Southeast, there's a cold pattern reasserting itself across the eastern half of the country next week that will not feel temporary. The ridge that has been keeping temperatures above normal across the south and east is being displaced. What replaces it is a pattern that forecasters are calling persistently below normal for the eastern United States through at least the second week of the month. This is not a one-day event. This is not even a 3-day event. This is a 7-day atmospheric reorganization of the entire country's weather pattern, and every single region has at least one significant hazard somewhere in that window. Here's what I need you to understand about a storm like this one. The breadth of it is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to be specific. A storm that affects everyone does not affect everyone in the same way at the same time. Your hazard is different from your cousin's hazard 3 states away. Your window is different from your neighbor's window in a different elevation zone. The worst thing you can do with a system like this is see the word everyone in the headline and treat it as equally threatening to you at every hour of the next 7 days. Find your specific county, find your specific hazard window, find your specific threat type, and build your preparedness around that specific information. NWS point forecasts are county-specific, SPC outlooks are regionalized. Your local NWS office's forecast discussion is updated multiple times per day and written by meteorologists who know your terrain, your rivers, your microclimates. Use those tools. They exist precisely for moments like this one. The atmosphere built this storm over the Pacific over the last week. It is now aimed at every state in the lower 48. You have today, right now, to make sure you are ready for your piece of it. Do not wait for the watch. The watch confirms what the forecast already told you. The forecast is telling you now. I also want to say something about mobile homes because I have said it before and I will keep saying it. There is no version of this storm system where a mobile home is adequate shelter during a tornado warning. Not in Kansas on Thursday, not in Alabama on Friday night, not anywhere in the severe weather corridor this system will produce. The risk of death in a manufactured structure during a significant tornado is 15 to 20 times higher than in a permanent frame building. If you live in a mobile home and a tornado warning is issued for your county, you need a pre-identified destination before this week, not during it. Identify a church, a school, a fire station, any permanent structure within 2 minutes of where you live. Have the conversation now while the weather is calm, because the moment a warning tone sounds at 2 a.m. is not the moment for problem solving. The warning system in this country is extraordinary. The NWS offices that will be working around the clock this week, the meteorologists issuing products at 3 in the morning, the emergency managers coordinating shelter openings across dozens of counties simultaneously, all of it works. What determines the outcome of a week like this one is not whether the warnings go out. They will. What determines the outcome is whether the people in the path received those warnings, had a plan, and had a shelter that matched the threat. Every one of those three things is something you control. Right now, today, stay prepared, stay connected, stay weather aware. I will have updates as the system evolves.